Hi everyone, thank you for being early and just coming into the room. This is the last session for today. We've had two really great sessions. As per usual, the poll will pop up. Just let us know where you're dialing in from and what industry you come from. But actually, I want to take this next couple of minutes to talk about the TBNAsia app. There are some really amazing social enterprises on the app. And I'm just going to, I know this is not going to do justice to all of them because I can't talk about every single one of them. So I'm just going to literally pick a couple, and for the diversity of industry and also for the diversity of countries that was represented. So we have Vulcan Cosmetics, which is based in Vietnam, and it's what they do is affordable modular prosthetics. So I know we had a question this morning about funding in the disability space, and here's one social enterprise that is creating affordable prosthetics for people with limbs and really helping in that sector. So please check them out and connect if that is of interest to you, and you can do that via the app, the TBNAsia app. The next one is Philippines. So this is a straw innovation. And basically they're using the rice straws, so after the harvest, the straws itself, and making that into clean methane and fertilizer. So that gets left behind and they've found a way to utilize it. So if anyone's into agri and circular economies and all of that stuff, please check them out and connect with them on the app. One from Singapore, Sinclair. So Sinclair is a healthcare tech addressing primary healthcare needs in the workplace. So if you want to find out more about them, yet again, go chat with them through the app. And the last one is from Cambodia. So Ink Animation, which is a 2D animation studio. So people outsource. They've done some award-winning Netflix, I think, cartoons and animation. And really, they're providing employment for unskilled young people over there, and they train them how to do animation. So, and that's based in Cambodia. So I just picked these four, and please, if I didn't read out your name and your company, I would have loved to, but just to highlight the quality and also the type and diversity of social enterprises across this region on the app. So please jump in there. We really want people to engage with the social entrepreneurs. I think in our normal conference, which was I attended last year in KL, they would have booths. Like, you know, just like a normal conference, you will walk around during the breaks or sometimes during the sessions if you need a break. And just talk to them and find out more about them. And I know I bought some really cool earrings last year, I think from Freeleaf. They had a booth. And I still wear them today. Thank you to the beautiful social enterprise Freeleaf. And so I know it's really hard virtually, and this is our best go, I would say, at doing it, just to give some highlights and getting the word out about great social enterprises. So jump on the app, please. We would love for people to engage there. So the poll, there should be a poll that's going to pop up. Please let us know where you're from. Just from the couple of sessions, even yesterday at 5 p.m, I think people are logging off work, finishing up a couple of calls. So I will actually leave it just for a couple of minutes for people to just dial in. The numbers keep going up, so we just want to give that time. I don't know about you guys, and definitely we'll do this at the end of the whole conference. When we designed this, we did the sessions in the first thing in the morning, lunchtime, and after work, because we know everyone's busy during work hours. And actually, we probably will want feedback to see whether that's worked for you. Obviously, if you're attending right now, it's worked for you because you can dial in. So maybe we're asking the wrong people there. But just generally overall, like what timing suit best? Because I think with most of us, doing a virtual conference or virtual event is a first time thing. It's we've never really done it, and us as TBN has learned a lot in the process. So actually, if any of you out there are wanting some tips or just like, you know, some learnings, happy to share, because there's no point making those mistakes that we've made or relearning it again. So and that's always about collaboration, always going back to that. Let's collaborate and share. We all have the same heart, and have the same goals. So yeah, let's just keep doing that. So let me just see, what are we at now? 502. The numbers are still coming in. So let's have a look. We've got Australia, Indonesia, other Southeast Asian countries. So just to let you know, there's a Q&A box that's open. Please interact and put your questions up during this session. And at 6 p.m. we'll open the chat box, and you can then talk to all the participants, and we'll be definitely much more interactive than the first hour, where we're just going to go through a series of questions and webinar style. So they're still coming in. Thank you for dialing in. And the sectors, let's have a look. The social entrepreneurs in the room. Great to see you guys coming in. And we have some investors, government, non-private, non-SE private sector. So thank you so much. So I might just, what we'll do is I'll just dive into our usual intro, and then we can get started. So hi, my name's Wen, and I volunteer at TBNAsia, and it's been really a privilege to work together with the team to bring this conference. The conference was all about surrounding SEs and their founders at this very, very difficult time. So we are really, really happy. We've got 2 more days to go at this conference. And actually last night when the team was texting, and I said, I'm going to miss this. I'm going to miss working with the team and bringing this together and meeting really great people in the panel and hearing really inspiring stories as well. So for those who don't know about TBNAsia, we're an organization all about fighting poverty through enterprise. And we believe in an ecosystems approach, and this very session is one big part of the ecosystem, capacity builders, the people who are there creating programs to really help strengthen the foundations of the enterprises that are trying to make really good social impact. So, and there are other pillars of the TBN network as well. So we have conference and events, which you're at right now, a resilience program, which we've spoken a lot about, but basically all the proceeds of this is going to go to the resilience program that will be dispersed by a couple of different ways to help social entrepreneurs at this very hard time. We have the Investors Club, which we spoke about earlier in another session, just people who are wanting to impact invest. And we have an impact investor as our moderator today. So it's great to see the kind of diversity in this panel as well. And also we have the SEF program, like I mentioned. So there's a lot, and expertise network where professionals volunteer their time. And that's where actually it links together with a capacity building program. We need the experts. We need professionals to come on board and volunteer and just help out. So this whole conference would definitely not be made possible without the sponsors and our partners who have come on board. So we just want to say thank you. All the sponsorship money that you have given is also gone towards the resilience program. With the poll, maybe we'll just flash it up one more time and we'll close it out. We would, yeah, just to see who's in the room. I think also today we made a very last minute, but also a very good decision to have an extra panelist. So we have Wayne Chair actually from TBN to talk about Seth. So we've got, I'll leave the introduction of the panels to Jen, our moderator, but it's going to be really exciting just to hear what's out there. I think we just want to get word out on where help can be received. So without further ado, Jen, I'll just pass this time over to you.
Wen, do you want to quickly just explain about Romy for a bit?
Oh, sorry, Romy. Okay, our dear Romy, who is in Indonesia, suddenly had a blackout. So Romy should be in here, but you can't see him because it's dark. He has no power. And we just tried to do the video before as well, but the audio was cutting out. So just to let you guys know that Romy is there, it's just that we can't get visuals at this stage. But so glad that he can join us as well. Cool. Over to you, Jen.
Okay, thank you. Hi, I'm Jen from Citrine Capital and Impact Investors. So no doubt we're living in a unique, challenging and historical time, a time filled with many uncertainties. But even in the times of uncertainties, it's actually very warming to see how different stakeholders focus on how to best support communities and businesses as the crisis continue to unfold. It's actually a lot about putting people first. So one such example in Malaysia is perhaps an initiative that Citrine Capital has collaborated with Alliance Islamic Bank, Magic, as well as NGO Hub to deliver essential items to those in need through procurement from social enterprises. And this is just one of the many initiatives that I know of. So looking more broadly, capacity building has been and will continue to be a critical pillar in the recent outbreak. There's no better time like the present to come together and help businesses and communities navigate these challenging times. And so I guess this panel aims to really understand how capacity builders from various different countries, we have Malaysia, Indonesia, Philippines, as well as Singapore, adapt and thrive. Like TBN's tagline, survive to thrive, I guess. So without further ado, let us all welcome the different panelists. We have Priya. Priya is the co-founder and CEO of Vilgrow Philippines, an early stage impact investor and incubator aiming to impact the poor. She's also the co-founder of Unlock Impact, a social impact consulting firm. These roles sum up her passions on supporting impact entrepreneurs to scale their models. Next, we have Romy. Romy is the CEO of at Instella, Indonesia. It does incubation, advisory, and investments in mission-driven companies. Through his past 8 years in the industry, he has supported 150 community enterprises, 150 civil society organizations, and 78 impact-driven startups. Amazing figures there, Romy. We also have Tila from Malaysia. Tila is the senior executive of Sunway iLabs Malaysia. iLabs aim to stimulate market-driven innovations, particularly through makerspace, bootcamps, and accelerators. Recently, he has also been involved in initiatives to support those in need during MCO. I'm sure he will be sharing a lot more with us afterwards. And finally, we have Wayne from Singapore. He's currently the product director of Sentient and serving as the social enterprise training hub, Zeph Lab for TBNAsia. He first found his calling for impact innovations at Asia P3 Hub, previously part of World Visions International. Prior to that, he co-founded and exited a digital company called TechSailor. So it's a very, indeed it's a very diverse panel. My one and two liners basically don't do any justifications to all your incredible work. So to kickstart this conversation, maybe I'll get each of you to explain more a bit about what you do, what your organization does, and maybe highlight the one or two specific initiatives that you're currently working on in response to COVID-19 as well. Why don't we start with Priya?
Thank you so much, Jan. Thank you for that. Indeed, what a time that we are living in. But I'm so excited that, we can continue to engage in these very important discussions. So thank you for having me. A quick introduction to Vilgrow. Vilgrow, we're an early stage incubator, as Jan was saying. Our mission is really to help create, scalable, impactful enterprises. And we do that by funding, mentoring, and nurturing companies all the way from, product development stage onwards. Our focus is really, social impact. So that is the lens that we apply, but we do have to, a few sectors that we prioritize. And that is kind of, from the learnings of having done this for a long time. So Vilgrow is actually turning 20 this year. Which is a very, very long time to see how the impact ecosystems globally and where we started off in India and now what's happening in Southeast Asia. So everything is super exciting, but it's a very difficult and long journey, as we've learned. So our focus in the way we approach supporting entrepreneurs is kind of with a framework of inspiration, incubation, and investment. So on the inspiration side, we continue with ecosystem building because we need to create the space for entrepreneurial models to come up. So we continue to do that through thought leadership because of all the lessons that we've learned of, collaboration is a key part of that. So the inspiration, so we do, for example, in the Philippines, we have monthly events where we bring the social impact community together. And we've been continuing to do that even in the COVID period through kind of, like this virtually. And it's amazing to see how much people want to connect with each other and support each other. So that's been really encouraging. Incubation is really our core. And we do this by providing a bit of funding. So we do seed funding of up to $100,000 US typically. And this is really risk capital, so the enterprises can test and validate their models. And we may support a company anywhere from 1 year to 5 years, depending on the industry that they're in. So I think we've tried everything, all the things that can happen in incubation acceleration, because we've been around for 20 years. And the reason that we've settled for a very customized way of working with entrepreneurs is that we believe that there's a lot of hand-holding to be done. And we wanted to kind of push the support outside of classrooms into their operations. So we work alongside entrepreneurs, and we assemble the experts, the funding, and the networks that they need. And that means it takes more effort and more resources. And we all know sustainability is a big issue for intermediaries, but we've chosen that path because we believe that's really a way to get companies from stage A to B and cross that valley of death, which is our focus. And on the investment side, we continue to build partnerships. And so I'll just quickly mention 2 initiatives so that, to stick to time. So I've been based in the Philippines for the last 4 years, and really our role here has been very much as an ecosystem builder, because we come with all the tough failures and success of the Indian ecosystem. And for us, collaboration has been kind of the mantra from day one. So the first initiative is really an impact, it's a gathering of impact investors, very much like the investing clubs of TBN, where we are putting together a pot of funding to make that accessible to entrepreneurs that are really struggling for survival. And I know we'll get into that in the panel, but it's a reality, and we have to respond if we want to see any entrepreneurs beyond the pandemic. So it's really important, and that's what we're working on. The second piece that we're working on is a shorter program, a 1-year program for women entrepreneurs specifically, because we believe that women-led businesses are going to be critical for the economic recovery of this region. So we're launching a program next month along with some partners, which I'll talk about, into the panel discussion. So those are 2 things. Happy to share more.
Thank you, Priya. Wilgrow should definitely come to Malaysia, though. Okay. What about you, Tila?
Hi everyone. Thank you, Jen, for having me here in this panel session. So I'm from Sunway Innovation Lab. So just to explain what one Sunway Innovation Lab is, that it's very hard for me to explain it in detail. So I'll use a mantra that we always use. So we always stick to this mantra where we say inspire, build, and launch. So it breaks it into multiple different sessions, where in the inspire route, what we do is that we try to build student startups, student entrepreneurship, the design thinking, to build that mindset while the students are already in the university, to think about sustainable development, to think about social innovation as an aspect for them as a career path in the future, because a lot of the students do not really realize that there is a career path in social innovation and also entrepreneurship. So that's the inspire part, and we have a makerspace at the university itself for the students to go to the next step, which is after the ideation, what do you do with those ideas? You have to create prototypes, right? So we have a makerspace, and we have an extensive 6 to 8 month mentorship program where each one of these students, each team of students are actually mentored by us personally. And also we bring in industry partners and relevant startups in our entire ecosystem to boost their ideas and boost their knowledge base to help them go to the next level. And we built those prototypes. We have 3D printers, laser cutters to help these students to really come up with those prototypes that are working and are able to solve different problems. So that's the build stage. And then finally, we have the launch stage, where we actually utilize the extensive partnership between Sunway University, Sunway Group, which has about 11 business units, and also Sunway Ventures, which is our venture capital arm. And also one more venture capital arm, which is on Sunset Capital. So that helps us to launch the products and launch the different kind of solutions that is being provided in the entire ecosystem, and using Sunway City itself as a living lab for everyone. To talk about some of the initiatives that recently we worked on during the crisis was, number one was we really realized that there was a lot of issues about retailers going out of business, because Sunway itself has a huge market in terms of retail business. We have Sunway malls all around Malaysia. And so the problem is that we realized this problem, and we really listened to the problems from our own retailers. And we decided that, you know what, we should do something to really help bring this retailers, especially the traditional oriented retailers, into the online digital marketing, digital world. So we launched this program called the Ecommerce Jumpstart program, and we brought in through our network about 12 to 13 different partners from Easy Parcel, from Alibaba, Shopline, Our Shop, and you just name it. So all of these big players in Malaysia, and provided free content for 4 weeks to anyone in Malaysia. So when we first launched, it ended up within 3 days. We actually launched this in 2 weeks, the entire content, including our website. And in just 3 days, we had about 1,600 plus participants joining us. So it was a great success, and we had a lot of ways of connecting with the various type of people. Some of them who were for the first time ever using a live session or being in a webinar of such scale. So the other side was that, yep, I think I still have some time. So the other side was that slightly less on the capacity building. It was more on a very small project that was close to our heart. So what it was, because we have the Sunway Medical Center as part of our ecosystem, and one of the problems that we were all facing is the lack of PPEs, the personal protective equipment. So we decided to work with some community makers like Epic, and also some people who are just actually from a studio, what they call advertisement studio, and decided that let's make a screening booth for COVID-19, because Sunway was already starting to take in patients to test for COVID-19. So we decided that, and then within 1.5 weeks, we actually produced a screening booth while doing everything online. So all the collaboration, all the designs were shared online, and discussions with all the medical expert, biomedical engineers, everything we did this online. And finally, we were able to get some permission for us to go out to bring the product and fabricate it and get it back to the medical center. And right now we are working on open sourcing the project so that everyone else from different parts of the world could actually get access to the blueprint of making the screening booth. So
wow.
Yeah, that's it.
Well, thank you, Tila, for sharing that you have got a little ecosystem within Sunway yourself, and bringing in different collaborators from outside. I think that's inspiring for all the other capacity builder to look into as well. Okay, we'll move on to Romy now, although we can't see you, but we can hear you. Romy? Oh, we can't hear him too. Romy, are you there? Okay, maybe we should go on to Wayne first, and then we'll get back to Romy. Wayne?
Okay. Hi, I'm Wayne Chia. I'm one of the leads for the within TBNAsia. We have 5 pillars, and I lead the Social Enterprise Training Hub. The Social Enterprise Training Hub is effectively an investment readiness program. We don't want to compete with everyone else. There are a lot of very good incubators and accelerators already out in the market. So what we want to do is to fulfill a very particular niche whereby we help social enterprises that are a little bit more promising. They've been around for quite a while, they are already pre-revenue, and they are now looking to scale. Can we help to fulfill that gap? So because of that, we are quite clear this is the gap that we want to fill. So we structured our syllabus a little bit more differently. First and foremost, you kind of know that most of these guys have been around for 2-3 years, maybe more, which means that the valley of despair has started coming in, right? So we would actually see how can we help them. So the first session is really about revisioning. Do we know why you start your social enterprise? Do you still have the passion in you? If you have lost it, how can we help you to relight your fire? So we have to get them to be able to articulate their vision, articulate their strategy, get excited all over again. Of course, there's the standard stuff like your business model canvas, your financial modeling, which is important, by the way. But we actually do dive deep in. We actually go down and look at their cash flow projection. We get them to work on their month-to-month cash flow projection for 12 months. We kind of rebuild certain things from scratch. And we then go into a lot of details on how do you structure a term sheet, right? Have you ever had a term sheet on the table? If you are now negotiating with investors, what is considered a fair term? Is your cap table investable, for example? A huge piece of that, and you might have heard some of that being mentioned in the session led by Christy yesterday, is the mentorship part. But when it comes to mentorship, we actually divide it into three. We call it expertise, support. So we have a business mentor, and a business mentor for us is very, very specific, meaning that we've tried to match you with a mentor that understands your business inside out. The first batch we ran, it was extremely painful because we were super ambitious, but we ended up with some very good returns because we managed to find, if you're in a fashion business, can I find a fashion entrepreneur to help you? If you're into fishery, can I find someone who has been there, done that, but maybe 5 to 10 years ahead of you? We almost killed ourselves trying to find those matches, but we were always very encouraged when the entrepreneurs come back to us and say, oh, I cannot believe you could actually find someone with that high amount of match, right? So very encouraging. Then the other one we look at is the specialist advisor. So if you need help on legal, can we provide you help from a lawyer, an actual lawyer? If your biggest bugbear is finance, can I get you a trained accountant to help you with that? And last but not least, and this is the part I love the most, is we also have a coach layer. Now the coach isn't interested in your business. He's only interested in you as an entrepreneur. So how can the coach help you to realize your dreams once again, your passion once again, or maybe make those difficult decisions if you have to? So that's kind of what we are doing. We are on to the next batch, next cohort, which is coming up soon. In terms of the initiatives, well, our initiatives within TBNAsia are all interrelated. So I've mentioned the expertise network, which has spun out as a separate pillar in itself. The other two that you would have heard mentioned throughout the whole conference is we are also looking at building an investors club. This is led by Wen, our lovely host for the day. And we also have the resilience program where all the proceeds of this program is going into. Basically, we just want to help social enterprises tide through this difficult time. Back to you.
Readiness program, and I think this is very much needed because based on my I just got unmuted. Can you hear me now? Oh no, I was just saying that SEF is pretty much important because based on my experience of being an impact investor, a lot of the social enterprises may not be investment ready. They may not have seen any term sheets or cap table, and what you're providing with them is actually pretty practical as well for them to raise funds, continue growing their business. Okay, now is Romy back with us? Romy?
Yes, I'm here.
Okay, go on.
Yeah, apology to everyone. It's like a ghostly situation here, but it's okay, I guess. It's part of being human. Yeah, so I'm with Instellar. It's a company that we started a few years ago. You can find many information on the web, but maybe what I can share here is Indonesia, I think we believe that if we want to really make a huge change, then we really need to work with other stakeholders. And I want to mention this because in the past couple of years, we've seen a lot of different initiatives from the corporate and the government. And when I say corporate, what I mean are companies, big companies, which are either trying to help social enterprises, impact-driven businesses directly through programs, or companies which are trying to make more social impact, more environmental impact along their value chains. And I think this is a good trend that we are having here in Indonesia. And I think despite COVID, this will continue, and I think it will continue to be seen stronger even. With us in this situation, unbelievable actually. A few months ago, when things were very uncertain, we are not sure what we should do, how we should proceed, but apparently the mood is really good actually. So most companies, most social enterprises are in a high-spirited mode, I would say. So we are continuing a couple of our programs, our incubation programs, in this situation. Sometimes, like we are experiencing today, connection is rather patchy. Sometimes during good weather, things are okay, but we receive a lot of good applicants, for example, in the current batch of the incubation program we are running. We are modifying some of the activities into virtual formats and adding more elements of intensive interaction because we are now doing things virtually. I think I would stop there. I think it would be more interesting to have the discussion going. But overall, I would say in Indonesia, things are very active despite of this situation. And I believe that's the spirit that we have to continue bearing in all our activities. So back to you, Jen.
Sorry, I'm terrible at this. I was just saying I really appreciate Romi's commitment in this panel despite the blackout. Okay, so now that we have got a better understanding of what each panelist does and how different audience, different people from the audience, be it social entrepreneurs who may be benefiting from the capacity building programs, or even just investors who want to support, put in some money into their pot of funds to continuing support the ecosystem as well. Okay, let us now move into the discussion itself. So out of necessity, a lot of CEOs has actually prioritized the now. They're focusing on the changing needs of their people, the customers, and the suppliers. But at the same time also, they are rapidly turning their attention to the next, a period of unpredictable and possibly muted economic recovery. So with that as a general backdrop, what are some implications of COVID-19 on businesses that you have witnessed so far? In particularly, what challenges are they facing and how are they solving them? Priya, do you want to take this one?
Sure. You know, that question is a topic on its own, but I will try my best to keep it short. I think, you know, first we have to acknowledge that, you know, of course, social entrepreneurs are so critical to the response to COVID and will be in any of the countries that we are from at the front lines of trying to respond and solve these issues that are coming up. But, you know, they are businesses, and the impact and the negative impact and the fallout of, you know, economies closing down has, of course, like any other business, you know, it's definitely hit them hard. Many social entrepreneurs have had to suspend their operations, if not fully or partially. Many business models are broken, especially those who can't immediately adapt to online or digital. Supply chains are disrupted. And what does this mean? This means, you know, cash flow distress. Revenues are drastically cut, if not zero. You know, and I looked at a couple of surveys coming here, and you know, they said that 1 out of 3 social enterprises in this region are seeing 70 to 80% decline in revenues. Many of these entrepreneurs have outstanding receivables, and there is no line of sight of when that'll come in. So, which means that, you know, no cash inflow. All of those financial forecasting that entrepreneurs have done have really gone out the window. And what does this mean? This means they can't pay salaries, they can't pay vendors, they can't pay their supply chain partners, they can't pay for their office. And for social entrepreneurs, many of them have community partners as part of their supply chain. They work with either communities of farmers or artisans or weavers, small manufacturers. And with, you know, not being able to deliver your product or service means the no demand means that, you know, you really can't continue to support these communities, you know, which is really your mission, right? And I think that is a really, really challenging situation to be in for these entrepreneurs. And I think, you know, while, you know, people are trying to kind of adapt internally as well, they are trying to change things, right? Not everybody has managed remote teams. How do you keep the team motivated? How do you keep yourself and your team safe? I think this is a priority for many entrepreneurs, all business owners. And when you are a social enterprise, you know, you tend to be, you know, small teams, you tend to be really passionate, working together actively. And suddenly now all of you are in different places and trying to keep things afloat. That is the reality of where we are. And even as economies are opening up, you know, as you were saying, Jian, you know, muted recovery. And that is the reality for many of us, as much as, governments are trying to get back on track. It will take time. For many entrepreneurs, the last 3 months, they've had no revenue. That means, they have to look at what's next, as you were saying. And what does that mean? That means, you have to really be looking at your monthly cash inflow, trying to be realistic as much as possible of when you can be back to business. What we are seeing positively happening is, and I think Thila also referred to this, in his introduction, is that whoever can get online are trying. And I think it's great to see that there's a lot of support and people are coming together. Many social entrepreneurs, for example, here in the Philippines, immediately, which I'm sure is the case everywhere else, immediately added essential goods as part of, their offering. If they were selling home textile, they were making masks, right? If they were, they had a delivery system in place and they started, great example is of a travel company here called Mad Travel in the Philippines. It's travel and tourism is one of the most hard hit sectors. But what they've done is that actually they've started a Mad Market, where now they're working with the communities where they did this tourism and working with the farmers and selling produce from those communities. So social entrepreneurs who are at the forefront of innovation, at the forefront of responding to vulnerable communities, are doing what they can to survive. They are, I think, in the first instance, trying to see if they can offer some of these essential products and services, because that is all what the market will allow. In the Philippines, especially in Metro Manila, when many of these entrepreneurs are based, we have highly restricted movement. Only essential goods can move, right? Or only essential workers can move around. To give you an example, one of our companies, Cropital, they work with farmers outside of Metro Manila. They provide loans. Now they can't do disbursement or collection because many farmers are far away, and they actually have they have community managers who go in person to do that. So that is not happening. So these are very serious repercussions, not just in the months of lockdown and quarantine, but what that means for the business in the long term, what that means for the beneficiaries that they are serving, for the community partners who are essential to their supply chain. But of course, in like all, entrepreneurial minded people, in every crisis, I think we've seen people rise up to the challenge. And, as Romy was referring to earlier, there's a lot of activity. Like, if you go onto Facebook, everything is filled with requests, collaborations, entrepreneurs seeing, if somebody has a delivery, they can take somebody else's product alongside. There's a lot happening, and a lot of it is organic, right? Nobody said you must work together and, then your business is going to grow. A lot of it is on need, and also because of the spirit of collaboration is really essential to social entrepreneurship. So it's really very exciting to see that. I think the number one thing is, can you move digital is the question. The truth is that not all businesses can go online or be digital. So what happens to the others? How are they going to adapt? I think that's a question that many entrepreneurs are still trying to figure out. I think the fallout will only be experienced in the months to come, right? As people are trying to adapt to the situation. But the number one thing is conserve your cash. So many entrepreneurs are painfully going through the process of laying off staff. And this is not easy at any level for a large company or small company, but I think for social entrepreneurs that we've been talking to, it's been really hard. Most have at least 2 or 3 scenarios, a okay scenario where some of that revenue might come in, a scenario B where, it's 80% bad, and a scenario C, which is really the downside, where you have to assume for the next 6 to 12 months, you have no revenue, and how are you going to survive? How are you going to extend your runway? Those who had cash flow and, had at least 12 months of runway, I think they'll be okay. They will be thinking about how they can focus on improving the tech product, going online. Those who have less than 6 months of runway will be highly stressed to see if they can raise some capital to extend that. Anybody who has less than 2 months of runway, which many entrepreneurs may be in a situation of, many social entrepreneurs who may be expecting some grants to come in, but now these, it's stuck in paperwork. Many who've been negotiating deals now, everybody is kind of wait and watch because even investors, grant makers are trying to understand, how is this going to change? So that is kind of the reality, and everybody's trying to adapt. So I think the opportunities are there. I think digital is, of course, one of the ways. But I think the second interesting part is that, as I was referring to kind of the Facebook kind of engagement, there is a great sense among all people, especially those, I think, who are fortunate to have access to internet and, come, have these kind of interactions, that they want to do something, they want to give back. There is a social element to everything that we're doing, because I think this crisis has exposed the inequalities in our societies. And I think every day, anybody who can be privileged to be in this session, I think we all know how lucky we are. So I think there's a great sense of, wanting to do good. And I would say social entrepreneurs completely capitalize on this, because this is the opportunity to get mentors, to get partners, people that you may not have collaborated with. So I think there is an amazing social movement that can be unlocked, and that's a great opportunity in addition to the business opportunities that are coming up. I'll pause there to kind of maybe hear from some of my other panelists.
Okay, thank you, Priya. I do agree with you that social entrepreneurs are one of the most resilient, grateful creatures out there, human beings out there. So yes, Wayne, do you have a couple more of social entrepreneurs who perhaps, rather than surviving, but they're actually seizing opportunity out there to pivot their business model fast enough to basically make use of this difficult times, yet filled with opportunities?
Yes, I think in every crisis, there's always opportunity. And if I were to look around me within my ecosystem, I will kind of maybe say the opportunity is both external as well as internal. Let's talk about external first. COVID has created some lasting, permanent global trends, right? Global shifts. COVID has actually trained the whole world to do more things online. Now, what that means is the people whom I used to know, people I know who still refuse to do online banking or even still refuse to file their taxes online, for the first time are now forced to do so, right? I was very impressed that my parents now are attending church services online, and they are from a very small town in Malaysia. I was really impressed, right? What that means is a new market segment could have opened up for you. People in their late 60s and 70s or even 80s that previously considered themselves as digital non-savvy people are now forced to be using their mobile phones to be ordering things online. Now, what does that mean for the entrepreneur? People are now used to applying for jobs online. Now, what does that mean for the social entrepreneur? People now are more open to subscription, like teleconferencing, right? Teleconference consultations. Previously crazy, no one would have gone into that, but now suddenly it becomes acceptable. Now, what does that mean for the entrepreneur? So these are things that the entrepreneur will have to take a look, and assuming they have gone beyond the survival stage, or maybe at least they still have some runway, I think these are opportunities that can be tapped on. But I think there's another part of it that may not be so obvious. It's more on the internal side. I'm also inclined to believe that COVID-19 has enabled quite a lot of startups as well as social enterprises the opportunity to make some hard internal decisions. People tend to forget sometimes that a startup is more than just one founder. It's usually a few co-founders. And for those of you who may know, I've been through that. Opinions can diverge over time. And for a startup to go steady state or cruising, at least among my peers, it was about 7 to 10 years actually. So by then, you will see some very interesting trends. It's not uncommon that you may still have one founder or one or two co-founders that still wants to take a risk and develop a more future-proof business model. While the rest of the guys actually don't really want to rock the boat, because it took them 6 years to have a steady income, right? So why on earth would they want to change their business model right now? So because of COVID and everything is up in the air, businesses, social enterprises or startups are forced to make those difficult decisions. May not be a bad thing, right? I'm also inclined to believe that not all businesses, and this is just my thoughts, yeah, you guys can correct me if I'm wrong. I don't think all businesses are strictly restructuring because of COVID. They could have leveraged on the situation and say that, okay, everyone is doing so, let's do the same, right? And this is the best time to do it, and no one is going to kill us for it. I also know of startups that are more product development focused, taking this opportunity to say, well, all our external projects are not coming in, this is the best time to really accelerate on our internal product development. So these are some of the opportunities that I see enterprises, smaller companies, SME startups really leveraging on. And I think, in my opinion, it's a healthy trend, of course, provided that survival is not an issue.
Yeah, sure. Thanks for sharing. Okay, now that we understand a bit about the challenges and opportunities entrepreneurs face, maybe we should turn back to focus on the capacity builders. So there are usually different priorities, amount of fundings available, and initiatives that goes towards either short-term immediate relief for COVID-19 or long-term rebuilding. So which do you think is more effective at this stage in terms of the pros and the cons? Can you give a couple of examples of who is doing what where? Romy?
Thank you, Jen. First of all, I think we should treat social entrepreneurs as entrepreneurs. So yes, short-term relief is needed, and I think it's not only needed by social entrepreneurs. I think any businesses would need it, but I don't think we should see this as a free handout. I think it's more effective in the long run that if we want to help social entrepreneurs in this situation, then we provide a ground of bouncing back ideas, how or what they want to do or should do in this situation. And I think that's healthier because it's remind everyone that, hey, we are entrepreneurs, so what should we do in this situation? I really like the earlier points by Wayne that this situation forced us to really think what we are, what we believe, what values are important for us, what long-term impact that we really want to create. Are we sufficiently equipped to do so? And I think it's totally okay if people choose to change their decisions that they made in the past. It's totally okay to do that. And I think having this kind of healthy discussion is what is needed by entrepreneurs, so that instead of just, of course, any cash would be welcome, but having this healthy discussion is, I think, also very important to have with the entrepreneurs. We ourselves are having quite intense discussion with some of the entrepreneurs we are working with in the past few years. Some of them, as Priya mentioned, really take hibernation, stop all the operation and take this time to really reflect what they want to do next. Some of them are surviving, some of them are flourishing actually. And so we are thinking that this is a good time actually to remember that actually, first of all, we are not alone in this situation. Everybody are in this situation, and this doesn't mean that we are dead. Actually, this means that we are changing, and I think there is a lot of optimism, at least in Indonesia, in what we have seen, in what for us at Interstellar, we are also experiencing this change. We are modifying and developing new products which are more in line with the digital trend. And I think by living this way of thinking, this way of reflecting, I think this is the way forward. We may not see instant solutions, but I believe we will see a lot of solutions. New products, new collaborations, even new companies will rise actually from this COVID situation. So I think instead of just thinking short term, I think we should have the courage and the strength to see this situation in a more holistic way and see, okay, this is the situation. How should we survive? What really are our goals in the long term? Should we pivot? Should we close down the company? And I think all of these questions are healthy, actually, very healthy, in fact. And I think if we leave these questions faithfully, I think we will come up with quite good answers They may not be correct answers, but they will be the answers that we need for now. Yes, that's what I have for now, Jen. Maybe this is a bit philosophical, but I think this is what we need to have for current discussion.
It's always good just to look into the mirror and ask what's wrong, what's going on, and fix things rather than to hide, you know. So actually, indeed, a lot of capacity builders are taking pause and asking meaningful questions like you've just mentioned, and rethinking a lot of their current programs in order to support the entrepreneurs more effectively during times like this. So Tila, perhaps you would like to answer these questions. Do you see any previous practices that are no longer relevant in today's world? For instance, a lot of the capacity builders might like to organize a lot of demo days in which they invite a lot of investors to hear them pitch, but that will probably no longer happen now. So how can capacity builders adapt their programs accordingly to make it entirely digital? Is it really effective in the digital sense?
Right. I would say that if you talk about capacity building at this point in time, let's not think too much about the capacity in terms of building my capacity and networking and things like that. But why not think about the C, the community instead? So you already have that ecosystem around you. Why not you build more touch points between each of the people that is already in your database? So how do you connect these dots that are already in that community, and how do you build that togetherness so that people in that ecosystem itself, without having to build an additional capacity, connect each other and support each other? So on the other sense, when you talked about traditional methods of how we tend to organize events, organize demo days and everything, it is very, very possible that every one of these things could actually be moved online, which is exactly what we kind of did with our e-commerce Jumpstart program. And one of the interesting things that we actually saw from our experience is that during crisis, people tend to want to help another person who is in crisis because they know how it actually feels. So it made the job of connecting people much easier for us, especially when it comes to even competitors of e-commerce were saying that it's okay, we do not really care about competitiveness, but we just would like to support the people who are currently in crisis. So it helped us, it actually boosted our community outreach. And the other interesting thing about being digital is that it's not location specific, which means that if I were to organize something in Sunway, in Sunway vicinity, anyone in the region of Malaysia or outside of the region from any parts of the world can actually have access to the same content, to the same network that we actually have here. So that's the additional thing that you really have to think in terms of what is the benefit of going digital instead of just focusing on the traditional methods. So I wouldn't say that the traditional methods are irrelevant at this point in time. It's still quite relevant when things become slightly more normal. But at the same time, there are a lot more other things to focus on at this point. Now, the other thing that I would like to point out is the fact that a lot of these programs that we do online are now recorded and is completely available. It's a form of content creation for capacity builders like us. And at the same time, you're allowing an additional type of audience to come over and access those content. So we had received like people who are in the 60s, 70s, who do not really have the access to all of this content, right now are able to increase their knowledge base by accessing this content that are available to them. So that's I think one of the things that capacity builders have to start thinking about on adapting to the current situation. Build and focus more on the community and your outreach and what you can do by increasing the touch points between the capacity between the people in your community.
Yep, thank you, Tila. I really like it that you are highlighting the sharing mentality of those who are within the impact ecosystem. That's one of the best things of being within the ecosystem itself. So now that you have mentioned there's a lot of online webinars, conferences going on, then I'm sure we have seen a lot of webinars on how to get through the crisis, how to adapt businesses to thrive in a new normal, how to plan for recovery, etc. Wayne, what do you think are some of the most relevant topics these days, and how do you think these different topics will be able to support social entrepreneurs? Maybe cash flow management is already one in which Priya has highlighted.
I kind of thought that this is a trick question because every session in this conference is relevant. Just kidding. Well, personally, I have gone through enough of this, and I've actually been on a few. I mean, even outside of TPN. If I'm honest enough, it will go into generally 3 broad directions. The first one is financial management, as what Priya mentioned, cash flow. In fact, since the Lehman Brothers collapse, you know, there was this very famous, where was it from? A very famous VC, they sent out this very famous slide, RIP Good Times. I cannot remember, was it Kleiner Perkins that sent that out, right? And everyone was like, wow, that's a message from God. I'm like, isn't that a no-brainer, right? So definitely cash flow management. In fact, all investors I know of is doing the same thing now. Again, just sending a friendly reminder to their portfolio companies to say, hey guys, conserve cash. If you don't need to spend it, you know, keep it, right? The second one would be, again, a lot of push on saying going digital. But I have to be honest with you, some businesses can go digital. Some businesses cannot, as what all my fellow panelists have mentioned, whether is it Romy or Tila or Priya. Some of them just cannot go digital. If you're in the hospitality business or you're in, say, the construction business, it's just not going to happen, right? No amount of digital transformation can turn your business all around. And that leads us to the third one, which a lot of people tend to miss, which is a lot of these webinars are on mindset shifts. And I suspect for people who miss that, they are going to leave the webinar feeling a little bit upset and disappointed. Like, what have I just spent the last 1.5 hours attending? This guy is not giving me any practical tips and just talking about you need a mindset shift and stuff like that, right? But let's hold that thought for a moment. Any entrepreneur worth their salt would expect and know that a crisis can happen anytime, any moment. If you have been around long enough, it will happen. Now, here's a provocative question. I don't know which one is worse. A crisis that hits everyone, so it's all across the board. So then the governments will be activated. They will put in a resilience fund, funding pumped into the economy, give out grant, tax reliefs, and everyone is equally bad. You look to your left and you look to your right. Everyone is equally bad, and you get the same amount of support. Or the economy is doing really well, but you seem to encounter a crisis that's unique to yourself. Your co-founder decide to run away, someone stole your IP, somehow your investor just pulled out, and that crisis is unique to you. While everyone around you is doing well. Honestly speaking, I don't know which one is worse. So my point is that don't belittle all that talk on mindset shifts. Is actually very important. And you should expect that things like this will happen repeatedly. The question is, are you prepared? Are you mentally resilient to be able to face any crisis or any challenges that will come your way? In one of the panels from yesterday, when we asked them, what is the biggest crisis you face? One of the guys, one of the entrepreneurs, Daniel, said, oh, to me, every day is a crisis. And I just kind of thought, yeah, that sounded like me in my startup days, right? Anything can explode. My servers can go down for no good reason. For whatever reason, there was some slippage. My payroll don't get paid out in time. Anything can happen. I just don't know. It's like I can expect a bomb to explode any given day, right? So the question is, am I prepared for that? Yeah. So I would say these are probably some of the key things I've seen webinars being held, and they're all equally practical.
Yep, understood. So basically, I guess to sum it up is that we need both hardware, the different technical skills, as well as the software, the mindset to make things right and continue moving forward. Okay, so it is generally understood that supporting others will first require capacity builders to also support themselves. So how do you think capacity builders can sustain themselves during these difficult times as well? So what are some strategies and efforts to lock in funding, to secure talents, as well as to find those entrepreneurs who are really in need of your support? Romy, do you want to take this one? Romy? You're muted. Okay. Oh, you're muted again. Romy, are you there?
Yes, I'm here.
Okay. Did you get my question?
No.
Okay, no worries. So I was just saying that a lot of capacity builders will first have to sustain themselves
Yes.
to have the right mindset to move forward in order to support others. So then
Yes.
how do you think different capacity builders are doing so? What are some of the strategies and efforts in locking in fundings as well as digging out for those entrepreneurs who are really in need of the support that you guys are providing?
Yes. So a couple of things I would like to share here. So Installer is not the only company or intermediaries here in Indonesia. There are a couple of us actually, and all of us are experiencing the same situation. And all of us are modifying our models. Some of us, I think, are experimenting with digital formats. But I think this is a constant situation actually. I mean even without COVID, I think we always have the mission to help others, the entrepreneurs, and we have to sustain and grow ourselves. So I think this is a constant thing. It's just that currently it's very intense. The situation is very intense. So what we have been doing at Instar, first we communicate with our funders and our shareholders for the situation. We communicate how we plan to stay afloat and how we are modifying the programs to stay true to our mission and values. We keep the communication open to say that, look, we are very open to receive any feedback from our stakeholders. And this means our funders, our clients, the entrepreneurs that we have been working with. And so I think that's where we are now. And I think all the intermediaries in Indonesia are experiencing the same situation. So I think this situation has posed us a greater challenge to be stronger. And with that, I mean, we at Instar, yes, we do have to be more efficient. For example, fortunately, we did not have to lay off any of our team members, but we did ask ourselves to say, would any of us take, for example, 20% less salary in exchange for 20% less time working, for example. We also have another option where people continue to work as we are now, but receive only 80% of our salary, and we would receive the remaining 20% later, 6 months after the situation is better. So we opened a lot of communication channels, internally, externally, and I think this is to really live out our belief that there's a good I think it's an African word. It's called Ubuntu, U-B-U-N-T-U. I think it's used as a name of a software, and I think it means something like I am because we are. I am because we are. And I think that's what this situation is trying to teach us. That maybe previously we are very self-centered and we think I can exist without any of you, you know. But I think what this situation is trying to teach us, hey, look, we exist because others will exist first, actually. So I think that's more important in this situation. And I can we can go into business continuity plan exercise, for example, and see, okay, what we should change with our products, with our business model. But it will go down to what Wayne just mentioned. Okay, what is your mindset? How do you see things in this situation? And I think for the social entrepreneurs and as well as for us, the capacity builders, I think that's the point which is, I think, the most important. That we are not alone, that we are in this together, and if that's the way we see things, then we should aim for coming out of this situation together. And that's really hard. That's really hard. That's really hard. We have to think of ourselves, how to survive, of course. But you know, if I want to survive, maybe I should sacrifice others. But living in this tension, living in this duality is, I think, if we live this truthfully, genuinely, I think we'll be okay, whatever, no matter what decisions we are making. That's from me, Jen.
Okay, thank you, Romy. You're really inspiring. I see my fellow panelists are all nodding their head when you're saying. I suppose all the audience as well. I'm quite aware of the time we have hit the point. So I guess to wrap it all up, then perhaps I'll get each of the panelists to just quickly share what is some of your call for actions to our listeners. How can others actually support your many different initiatives? Perhaps we can start with Tila.
Okay, I almost did what Jian did by forgetting to unmute myself. But anyway, so one of the things that I would really call upon people, and especially people or the people inside the network of capacity builders, is that in times like this, it's best, as I mentioned earlier, to work together to solve a lot of different things. I'll go with one thing that we have been working on as an initiative and how people can actually replicate the model of such an initiative. It's an initiative to bring free education, coding education to the entire nation in Malaysia. So we are working on 42 Kuala Lumpur. 42 is a coding school that is completely free, no tuition fee, no assessment. So basically you do not have to even have a high school certificate for you to join. So to provide a level playing field, and you do not have any attachment to it. There's basically no lecturers, no classes at all. So all of this are very peer-based learning. But to make this really successful, what we're trying to do is that we are trying to bring in the different kinds of industry partners, government agencies, to be able to support and pay it forward. So one of the things that we learned throughout our experience building this initiative is that, which is going to be launched soon, is that people need to work together. So when we have a common goal and we are able to educate and create that awareness between even competitors themselves, that there is a common goal, and if we do this together, the impact is much greater, then the impact will really become much greater, and the people who benefit will be your beneficiaries. And it's not just good for your own brand, but it's also good for your soul, kind of. So it really makes people want to work together to achieve these common goals. So that's what we're trying to do with 42 KL, which is an initiative going to be launched very soon. So we're working with government agencies and corporates to get this done. So what I'm saying is that think about ways for you to reach that common goal among your network and capacity builders and every other beneficiary. Sometimes even the smallest people in your network could actually have the potential to help you to come up with something that is substantial.
Thank you, Tila. Priya, you want to go next?
Sure. Thank you, Tila. I think that was such a great way to think about how, as ecosystem players, we can approach the situation. And I want to talk about two things. I think first is going off what Tila was saying. This is the time to collaborate. Funding and pots of money that is available for capacity builders, for social entrepreneurs, is all going to get very competitive. And many of us will be competing for the same pots because grant makers are limited, grant money is limited, and there is a lot of funding that is being diverted towards, first-hand kind of relief and supplies, and that will continue to be the priority until we get to a vaccine. So what happens to the ecosystem of impact entrepreneurs in the meantime, right? And while, entrepreneurs will continue, the entrepreneurs who have the numbers, who have, who can show that they can continue to grow in this economy, will, I believe, eventually be able to raise capital, because impact funds have a life cycle and capital needs to be deployed. So I think that will align. But I think for those of us who are working in the earlier stage, supporting earlier stage entrepreneurs, I think first we can collaborate as capacity builders. And people who are supporting entrepreneurs, trying to kind of create change. Romy and I have tried to do this, a lot of times before COVID, right? To really see how we can collaborate and, apply for funding opportunities together and, pool kind of the knowledge that we have so we can create larger impact. We haven't succeeded yet, but I know we will eventually. But I think there's a great opportunity, I think, to do fundraising together for intermediaries, to support each other's work. So we, for example, in the Philippines, there are 5 or 6 of us impact incubators that have come together, and we are supporting each other's initiatives. It could be as simple as promoting each other's events, sharing the information to the entrepreneur groups, because ultimately that's the group that we are trying to serve. So I think it's a time for collaboration. I had mentioned 2 opportunities in the Philippines before. So if there's anybody who's interested in supporting entrepreneurs in the Philippines, we are putting together, a resilience fund of sorts and giving out working capital over the next 12 months. We've received a little bit of support from the Australian government to kick that initiative off, to build that investment network. So we hope to be launching that in the next 2 months. So anybody who's interested in supporting early stage entrepreneurs in the Philippines, this is my call to action. Please do, reach out. And the second is we're launching an accelerator program for revenue stage women enterprises. So there are, we would love to, we are building 2 products within that, a gender scorecard, so that allows enterprises to assess their own, gender equality. And we will be willing to share all of that results with everybody. But if there is any collaborators, anybody who wants to learn from us or wants to join supporting women entrepreneurs, do reach out.
Thank you, Priya. I guess this is really the perfect time for collective action towards collective impact. Wayne, what about you?
Well, I almost wanted to say Priya almost took all the words out of my mouth. So I don't have a lot more to share. But here's an encouragement to Priya and Romy. A lot of times partnerships, you kind of think that it happens overnight, right? And even when consciously you try, sometimes things don't work out. So that was the case of myself with another partner company. We tried to refer each other deals. We tried to partner for 3.5 years, nothing happened. I would just have beer with the CEO and we just laugh, say, hey man, we suck, right? 3.5 years of trying to work together, it still that didn't work out. Well, guess what? The final referral caused us to become sister companies because we were acquired by the same group company 1 month apart. So if you have the intent to partner and you really work on it, to collaborate, it will happen. That's always my belief because I had first-hand experience now. So with that said, we, as what I mentioned about Seth, we have deliberately tried to carve out a segment whereby we don't compete, but we can collaborate. That means we can, that means we could be a pipeline for another program, or another program could be a pipeline for us. So if you happen to fall in that, you're a social enterprise and you happen to fall in that sweet spot where you're actually ready for social impact investment, we hope that you would consider us. We will definitely be popping up a call to action in one of the poll questions later on. But TBNAsia is not just for social enterprises, right? We also said we also open up to, even if you're a professional, we say keep that job, you can still continue to create impact by contributing your expertise. If you are in a family office, well, if you want to contribute capital, we have other programs for that. Make sure you speak to us, and to us, everyone is a friend, everyone is a partner. We would love to create collaborative impact.
Thank you, Wayne. A true sense of community. Romy. Thank you.
I really like what you just said, Wayne. I think there are lots of opportunities out there. I think if we stay true to what we believe, to our core values, I think we'll be able to manage that just fine. So yeah, I think that would be my. I guess you guys must be hearing a lot of noises on my background. So my house. So I'm currently with my parents' house actually, and we are very near to next to the street. So you can see all this. Okay. But yeah. So I think my final words would be, let's live this situation truthfully and genuinely, and I think we'll be okay. And thank you for TBN for having all of us here.
Thank you, Romy. I guess that's all for today. I believe we have another it's supposedly 6 to 6:30 for a Q&A session. So if you have any questions, do pop them into the Q&A and Wen will be taking charge from now on. Thanks, Wen. Back to you.
Thank you. Thanks, Jen, and thanks to the panelists. I love that our sessions always go to the heart and just like it's philosophical, and it just shows that as you guys as capacity builders, you're really in it for the people and serving the people who are serving the people. So it's a chain, and everyone plays a part. So thank you so much for sharing, and even your honesty around even how do you survive as a capacity builder. So a couple of next steps is to join us. So with what Wayne was saying before, Seth actually has a follow-up session just next Tuesday, 5 to 6 p.m. Singapore time zone. So if you can, please pop in. We would love to interact and hear from you as well. So that is next Tuesday. The next session, actually tomorrow morning, there is no session. So we all have the morning off, but the lunchtime one is super, super exciting. So founders and funders for good. It's actually a live pitch session. And it's going to be so exciting. I can't wait to join this. So it will be 12 to 1:30 tomorrow. Please dial in. And you can see from the slide that we've got some really great judges and commenters that will be commenting, and some really good enterprise as well that will be speaking and pitching. Spread the word again. I know we're really only 2 days down in the conference, but it's never too late to join and to continue to share on social media with those hashtags. The team at TBN, get in touch with us. I just wanted to at least have some faces that you can see. So our emails will be put into the chat afterwards, so get in touch. And Social Enterprise Saturday, so come and join us. It's going to be really exciting to just be able to interact with the social entrepreneurs. I'm just going to put the poll up right now so that you can just give us feedback on the session. Would love to get the feedback and keep improving. And also there's a question on if you want to get in touch with Seth, which then Wayne will be the one replying your email. Would really love to hear some feedback. And just to really try and funnel in and trying to see where people are interested and really get into action. I think conferences are really great, but like I always say, it's always what happens after, you know, what actions, what relationships, what collaborations that will come out of the conference. And on that collaboration, actually, on our very first session on Tuesday morning, our British Council was on there, Tristan Ace, and he actually did a call out. They're doing a social enterprise survey in Thailand. So if you're in Thailand and you're a social entrepreneur, they would love to hear from you to fill out the survey. So I'm just going to click enter. I will click enter, just posting the link to their survey. So we want to, just like we said before, I think it was Priya, that, you know, we share events and we kind of talk about what's happening in the ecosystem and help each other broadcast. This is our chance to do this for British Council for all the SEs in Thailand. So please feel free to share. I've actually read the report on SEs in Malaysia, and it was very, very insightful. So now I'm just going to dive into some questions. I like the one from Hong Yi. I think I'll read that one out. In this season of COVID, what do you see in a founder that makes you more confident in them being able to survive? Does it look like they're working harder, they're knocking on more funders' doors, or just remaining calm? So kind of what are the characteristics of the actions that you see that people will survive? I'm going to extend that question actually even to the values. what kind of founders have you found coming through your programs that you see that the values that they have that makes them last longer and go the mile in terms of just sticking on and and just going through the tough times? So maybe Priya, I know you've been doing this for a long time. Do you mind just sharing your observations?
Sure. And, I think the very fact that, they chose to be entrepreneurs means, some of these qualities are there or they've developed it over time. But I think in kind of the COVID crisis, I think as Wayne was referring earlier, as an entrepreneur, especially at the early stages, you have to be ready for crisis along the way. But I think I think the first thing is empathy. The empathy for your customers, empathy for your team, empathy for, maybe for the people that, you are surrounded with, because you are dealing with a lot of stress as an entrepreneur. So I think, if you don't have that empathetic lens in the work that you're doing, especially in a crisis, I think it's difficult to respond as a leader, even though you're struggling to keep your business alive. So I think the entrepreneurs who are, putting their team as a priority, who are caring about mental health, of their team, because that's really difficult, working remotely and, struggling financially. I think that's been a key. I think all of the other pieces that, is what I think a lot of us look for when we select entrepreneurs to work with, right? Resilience, being detail oriented, being strategic in their long-term thinking. I think in the earlier thing, I think Jian was talking about, thinking about now and next. I think entrepreneurs are always thinking about now and next. You can't separate it, because every action that you're taking, every business decisions that you're making today is really about what's happening to your business in the long term and the vision that you have. I think a lot of entrepreneurs, I think a lot of people are struggling. I think a lot of individuals are struggling, and the ones that, are trying to get out of this, I think are doing something that we talked about, a lot of reflection, because a lot of hard decisions have to be made. So you need to have a lot of clarity in what you want to achieve as a business, what you want to impact. And I think those who are able to do that and who've developed some of those skills, I think may be able to manage or survive in this crisis a little bit more, I think. And that's kind of what we are seeing with a lot of entrepreneurs.
Yeah, I'm sure that resonates with the other capacity builders. But anyone else, just unmute yourself and kind of give your view on that if you want to.
So since Priya has mentioned about the resilience and the persistent part, I think that I will move on to something else. I have always been very impressed by founders who continue to retain the team even in difficult times, or rather who has a team that will still continue to stick on even through difficult times. I don't know how they do it. I think Pak Romi is one example, right? Where he's trying to figure out, okay, I'll be honest, maybe there is going to be a cash flow crunch. Can I do a partial deferment of the salaries just to make sure everyone on the team still stays on? That's one way. And I think that sometimes we think of it as a financial exercise, but it goes way beyond, right? It just goes to show the heart of a leader that really I'm going all out and doing whatever is possible to keep this team together, and you guys can sense it, right? I mean, anyone could have said, so sorry, time's up, this is not working out for me, and I move on. But I've always been very, very impressed by leaders and founders who somehow can do that. And I think that the team actually senses that. And a team that comes together and sticks through difficult times can do wonders.
Cool, thank you. Tilla, I know you would have seen a lot of different entrepreneurs coming through, but is there like one or two really stand out qualities or values or even actions that you've seen that really that you can see that they're going to last the mile?
So the two things that came to my mind, one was empathy, which Priya shared automatically. And then the second thing that came to my mind was about teamwork, about how, when when there's a crisis, what do you do first? What do you think about first? It's always your team, because without your team, you can't really do anything else further. You can't do a one-man show, because in entrepreneurship, it's never a one-man show. And the other part is that the next people that you think about is your beneficiaries, because especially in a social enterprise kind of a scenario, you tend to have your beneficiaries as part of the ecosystem of your social entrepreneurship. So these are the things that they've already mentioned, but I would like to add something slightly more different, which doesn't touch on that, which would be creativity. I think creativity is one of the most important aspects of an entrepreneur, because that's what makes you different than a regular businessman, right? So it's not just about buying and selling, but it's about buying or creating a product that is suitable for a certain need. So these are the people, these are the type of entrepreneurs who are able to change and fit and adapt to a certain type of crisis. It doesn't matter whether it's a COVID crisis or any other financial type of crisis. So that's one of the most important things that you would see. This is something that I even observe, especially because I deal a lot more with the student entrepreneurs, the youthful entrepreneurs. It's funny how some things change, right? So I also work with high school students sometimes. So I see more creativity in younger students. The younger they are, the more creative they are. So as the time goes, when they become older and older, the creativity actually reduces, because they tend to put themselves in constraints that is restricted, because we as a society have built that kind of constraint that you say, oh, this is the law, this is how it should work, so you can't get out of these barriers, right? So the people or the entrepreneurs who really do well are the people who can come out of those constraints by themselves.
Wayne, I feel like you want to say something. Go ahead.
No, I'm just in violent agreement. That's but okay. So truth, right? A lot of the businesses we see today, what you don't see is how they got to where they got to, right? I remember reading some interesting articles to say that in bad times, Airbnb even was selling cereals, things like that. Yeah, these are stories you don't really hear until you dig in a little bit to say, what are some of these companies doing in difficult times? It will blow you away.
Yeah. Oh, I love that. I think one of the things, and I might just share, oh, Romy, do you have anything before I kind of just share this story?
No, please share your story.
Oh, okay. So one of the social enterprises who I absolutely love, and also because I'm an Aussie, is Thank You. So if for those who haven't come across their products, they basically make, so you know, Aesop is another Australian brand, which is like beautiful shower gel, moisturizer, and all of them. Thank You does that as well. But they started as a water company because they really wanted to address the fact that there's still people who don't have clean drinking water. So they started in the water side, and then they expanded into nappies and all these different, and they're all over like our supermarkets in Australia. But one of the things they did was that they basically donated 100% of profits. And so that's their model. They donate the money. You can scan anything you buy from them on the QR code, and it'll tell you where that money has gone to. Like just the impact and just being able to measure and trace it. They've done it amazingly. But one of the things that I think they get a lot of flack for is that they're not investable. You know, they've set up a model that, you know, no investors will invest because you give away 100% of the profits. But what I love about their story is the creativity. So Daniel wrote a book, and that was their capital. They sold the book, and it was just kind of tabling his journey as a social entrepreneur. The book's not even in the normal, you know, we read like this way. It's not portrait, it's in landscape. So you don't even really read in landscape. And I just love their creativity, because just with that, they raised the capital and then was able to then expand into the New Zealand market. So I think with the constraints and what we're talking about today, I think that just that last point on creativity, it's really, really amazing. And I really sometimes feel sad that as we grow older, we get less creative. And I just sometimes just think, how can we get that back, where there is, you know, kind of no barriers in the mind or even imagining the possibilities. So yeah, if any of the incubation or accelerator or capacity building programs can have like a creativity session where people can just kind of draw, or I don't know what it is out there to bring out that creativity again, I think that could spark a lot of new innovations and just ideas. So thank you for that point, Tilla. And anyway, I just love, thank you. I miss that I can't buy the products here in Singapore. That's where I am at the moment. But I just want to say thank you so much. It's 6:26. Thank you so much to the panel. I think that you guys do such great work, and sometimes behind the scenes. You know, we celebrate the entrepreneurs, we celebrate the products, but you guys are behind the scenes. Really, they're supporting, cheerleading, encouraging the social entrepreneurs, and just sharing your contact books, sharing your resources with them. So I just wanted to say thank you so much to all of you. Thank you, Romy. I know you're facing some difficulties right now where you are with rain outside, so he couldn't do the call from outside, and no electricity inside. So thank you very much for pushing through, and just want to thank you for everyone who joined us. So have a great evening, and see you tomorrow at lunchtime. Have a great night. Bye.